Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Larkspur Dance and Choreography Podcast. This is Melanie Daly.
Kayla's here again.
Yay.
Mel's assistant.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really excited who we have for our interview today, Mr. T.J. Maple. I've been a big fan for a lot of years.
The one thing I will say about this interview, the word that comes to mind is firecracker.
Yes.
His story was so good and just so surprising, and it's so cool how he's built so much off of where he came from.
Yes. He's dedicated, he's motivated, and he gets results for
Definitely.
For sure. I'm also really excited because we have a new sponsor this week.
Woo woo!
All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this new sponsor. It's a company called iSlide. Have you heard of iSlide, Kayla?
I have not. What do they do?
Well, they're amazing. Okay, so you know slides, the little shoes that like Nike makes them, Adidas makes them.
Sure.
So they're kind of like flip-flops, but like soccer players wear them and you just slide your foot into them. Okay.
Got it.
But the cool thing about iSlide is that they're personalized for your team. Like you can get other team stuff, but they also offer that you can get your own like team colors. You can get your team name. You can get, like, if you're the Dazzlers, you can get the Dazzlers on it. So here's their motto. iSlide is the only brand in the world that allows you to customize your footwear the way you want. We give each and every one of our customers a unique opportunity to represent themselves, their beliefs, and interests. So if you want to put your motto on your shoes, you can.
One day at a time.
That's right. We recognized a growing trend in the customization market, but a void in the footwear department. We wanted to bridge that gap and open up the world of custom slides. Stand in what you stand for is the backing of our company. And how can you truly stand for something without embodying it all the way down to your toes? Plus, we would get to wear slides every day to work. So the concept of iSlide was born.
I like that. We need iSlide. We need Larkspur ones. I'm just putting that into the universe if you feel like some charity.
Well, stay tuned. You never know, that might happen. And I'm very, very happy to be partnering with them. And I'm very happy to introduce our interview, Mr. T.J. Maple. TJ Maple, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for doing this. Really appreciate it. Okay, well, I always start out every podcast interview by asking my guest to tell me your dance story. How did you get started? Teams you've been associated with, where you've coached, all that stuff.
Okay. Wow. I mean, my story starts whenever I was younger. Actually, I have what's called hip dysplasia.
Oh.
And so whenever I was younger, I had to wear the braces like Forrest Gump, the metal ones.
Oh my gosh.
And so one day at daycare, my sister was in an acro tumbling it kind of had everything together. So ballet, acro, tumbling, everything kind of all together. And I found myself in that room, that class at one time. And it helped a little bit of the hip dysplasia. I was able to kind of get out of the braces. I had been out of the braces, so to speak, but not really, like, I think it strengthened,
right.
The condition. And so, did that for a little while, not anything major. And then around middle school or junior high, going into high school, I found an newspaper article with speaking of a talent show, and it was my great grandmother who happened to be a dancer, and it talked about how she was the finale.
Oh wow.
So I when you're younger and you're digging around at grandparents' house, you kind of dig through things, and I happened upon this newspaper article, and so I asked my grandmother about it, and she told me about it. It was her mother, and she was a dancer, and excuse me, and so that kind of sparked the interest. Moving into high school. In the 90s, the early mid 90s in high school, males didn't dance.
Right.
Not where I'm from anyway, Southwest Louisiana,
Wow.
not a big, area for males dancing. And so it was kind of a hush hush. I had a natural ability, didn't really have the training, but I was the one that everyone would come to when they were trying out for the dance team. So my friends that wanted to try out for dance team would come to me, and I would help them. And
that's great.
I helped my sister. My sister's younger than me, so I helped her to try out for the team and such. And so in high school, I was on the yearbook staff, and I got assigned the dance team page spread.
Oh, cool.
And so I found myself having to go to practices and performances and competitions, and kind of weaseled my way in, asked a lot of questions to the director at that time. And excuse me. And so I would ride with her to competitions and everything. And I just kind of became this sponge that kind of was absorbing everything around me, in not being able to even participate in the actual activity. Graduated high school and started doing choreography on my own, just kind of freelance. Had a very brave experience with my cousin's little peewee drill team here in Texas. And, I went to the director, the coach at that time, and said, I think they can do better than this. I'd love to show you what I feel like I can teach them. And so, an 18-year-old, not even 18-year-old student at that time, I was 17 and graduating high school, my senior year, and I came up and I proposed this to her, who does that?
Right.
But then we, me and my best friend who danced, we came up with these dances and went to her house and kind of auditioned for her, showed her what I was saying I could teach them. And so ended up getting that job. I lost money that first year.
I'm sure.
I get the kids, there were 12 dancers. I gave them a t-shirt, a cassette tape with the music, and a trophy, and then paid my best friend. And I think I spent money on the whole project. But it taught me that, that just to go for things. And and so I did that, and then ended up, the director ended up quitting, and my aunt actually took over for the rest of the year. So I ended up finding myself going to Dayton, Texas, which is where this was, 2 hours away from where I was from. I would go up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go back home on Sunday, and I would teach them. And I was kind of their director, and choreographer. And, so I did that pretty much for 2.5 years. And then in August of 1999, October of 99, not August, pardon me. I packed up my car and a friend with a van, and I moved to Texas. I slept on couches and worked in an apartment complex as a make ready. I worked in a pizza place. All this to pursue a dream. So I went to school right out of high school for wildlife management. And people that know me know I raise waterfowl as well. So ducks and
really? Oh my God.
So
that's so cool.
Do that, and it's a passion of mine. And so now that have a career, 20 some odd years later, I've gotten back into the ducks and the birds and the waterfowl. And so I after I went to school for a year and decided this is not what I want to do. I was told numerous times, you need to find something that's going to put food on the table.
Right.
And dancing as a career or doing choreography, it was a great hobby, but you'll never make a living out of it.
Right.
And I remember those words instinctively, basically just turning into a, I'm going to prove that I can do this. There's something inside. There's something that is drawing me to this. And I'm not a very spur of the moment person. I like things planned out.
Right.
I'm not very spontaneous. I'm a very type A person, and I've always been that way. So to kind of follow my heart and go, there's something bigger here. I just don't know what yet.
Right.
As a 20-year-old at that time, whenever I decided to move, was kind of, unheard of, I guess. But Basically, I ended up in Dayton, Texas, and I took my team. The Pee Wee team had grown to 43 members at that point.
Wow.
So 12 to like 26 to 43, those were about the numbers. And I took out of those 43, I let whoever wanted to audition for my all-star team. The Dayton Sensations was their name. They could audition, and the whole goal was to compete, was to go to competition in March. And so I spent the rest of the year finishing up the Pee Wee team, but then having, as soon as Pee Wee was over, we had practices 2 days a week on Tuesday and Thursdays in the apartment complex that I worked at in their clubhouse. We fundraised every Saturday, whether it be a car wash, a bake sale, or sitting at Walmart with a bucket for donations.
Wow.
And we ended up competing. And then, the parents had bought into this. It was teaching their child that, they had to work hard, and that, seeing them go from what they were with the Pee Wee team to now this competitive team of 12 and then competing and doing well and winning, at that competition, the parents, as soon as we were done, said, well, we don't want this to be over. What do we need to do?
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
The parents actually found me a building, and I opened up Dance Etc. In Dayton, Texas, and my teams grew. And so I had multiple teams. Then I became involved with the dance team at the high school. I volunteered my services to be their technique coach, and all did that. The director ended up resigning mid-year, so the school brought me on for the rest of the year and said, we just need you to finish this year. And I said, okay, I can do that.
Right.
I was getting paid, at that point you're getting paid, and not a lot, but it was,
money.
I'm fulfilling a dream,
right.
I'm doing what I love, and who can bat an eye at that?
Right.
And so, all while I still had my pizza place job,
Wow.
I made pizzas, and I had the studio, and I had the drill team, the high school team. And, I'm saying this because it just, sometimes you got to work harder. And I think that's what we're missing in this generation, is that, they don't always want to work as hard as it takes to get somewhere.
Like, I wonder, like when you were telling your story about high school and you were on the yearbook staff, I just thought, oh, what a shame that he couldn't have been on the dance team. Mm-hmm. But I'm almost wondering if, like, I think your story wouldn't have turned out the same, because you had to be right. Like, you just had to work for everything.
Well, and being told no, I'm a product of no. I've never been told yes the first time.
Right.
It took a long time to get to that point in my life where I was sought after, and and I was, and it's still to this day, I go, where did you find me? Like, how did you, being able to work with some of the teams I work with, and have been blessed, and fortunate enough to produce competition routines for and such. I just go,
it's mind blowing.
Kind of surreal.
Yeah.
It's still surreal. And I think the minute that I don't have the humility, I think, and the giddiness, I guess, of being picked, I think at that point it'll be time for me to, put up my dancing shoes. I really feel, because I just feel like there's so much that to be thankful for, but so much to be in awe about.
Yeah.
Like
holy cow.
I got to do that. And, and I think that it's just such a different way. But,
well, when were you finally able to shake loose of your pizza job, like all your side gigs?
All the side gigs.
Or tell me, wait, are you running late for your shift at the pizza place?
Right. No, I think short? That. So what happened was, after that first year, or me finishing the year, I was assuming it was just that 1 year. Well, I went into the principal's office in about the end of May, and I said, Mr. Heyman, what is going on? Have you found another director? The team needs to go to camp. They need to go to officer camp. There's, all this has been done. And he looked at me and he said, and now mind you, they hadn't competed before. They hadn't had a spring show in a while. They hadn't done what I had done in that half a year with them.
Yeah.
Because whenever I took over, if there's anything I can say about myself is I'm going to do more kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just want me to be at some games and babysit? No, I don't want to do that. I want to compete, and I want them to, we're going to have a spring show. And so I asked him, I was like, can we do these things? And he said, you know what? You keep the parents happy and you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
I said, well, how much money do I have? He said, you don't worry about that. You do what you need to do to make it happen, and we're going to make it happen.
Oh, that's so
and
cool.
So I was in such a unique position because that doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
So I went in at the end of the year and I asked him, and he said, you know what? He said, we stopped looking about a month ago. And I said, well, why?
Yeah.
What's going on? And he said, we want you to continue to do this. And I said, oh, okay.
That's so cool.
And then they created a paraprofessional job for me. So I was a teacher's aide.
Oh, cool.
And mind you, I don't have a degree at this time. So I'm a high school director in a high school. I'm on paper. I'm doing everything. No one taught me anything.
Yeah.
I'm learning. I'm figuring it all out as I go. I'm this teacher's aide. I thought I was rich. I was getting $800 a month.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought that was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I could quit my pizza job at that point. I had the studio and I had the dance team and basically quit my pizza job and was a teacher, a paraprofessional. Now I'm 21 years old at this time, 22.
Yeah.
22. So I still look young. I looked young for a long time. So it was kind of cool being in there and being stopped as asking, where's my hall pass?
Right.
So awesome. And so did that. And sorry, I have this is all podcast, so you're recording all this, I'm sure, but I had to answer an email.
That's okay. I was going to say, I can cut that. I can cut that part out too.
Sorry.
No problem. No, that's okay.
The joys of having, sometimes in your life you don't have anything to do and other times you have more things. But anyway, so I did the dance team at Dayton another year. We did great, amazing things. I just didn't have as good of a year with the parents as I thought and needed. And so there were some issues there.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what, this is okay. This is where this door is going to close.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get my degree and I want to be a dance team director. And, the goal was to be a high school director at that point. That was it. And so I called up Sandy Hinton at McClendon Community College in Waco, Texas. And I had met her taking my seniors to a recruiting event. And I knew that she had a male on her team. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ask. Why? What does it hurt to ask?
Right.
And so I called her up and I introduced myself to her again and said, I want to go back to school and I would love to try out for your team if it's not too late. And,
oh my gosh.
She had already had tryouts and she said, you know what? Send me a video and we'll go from there. She said, I don't have any scholarships available. I don't have, but send me a video and we'll see. And so I did. And I remember that week of me sending the video that once she had it, I was like, oh my gosh, I was on pins and needles.
Yeah.
I think I called her probably 3 times and bugged her about it, just making sure she had gotten it and everything. And then, I got the call and she says, I'd love to give you an opportunity here. Once again, I don't have scholarships available, but, maybe I can help you with some room and board or something,
right.
And I said, you know what, I'm being given an opportunity and a door is opening. And so I said, you know what, I will figure it out. And so I worked, during that first year, I worked at McLennan. Now I'm 23 years old at this point, and the youngest person on the team was 16 because they graduated early.
Oh my gosh.
So there's this big gap, right?
Yeah.
And, but I'm a 23-year-old student back in the JUCO, and I did the untraditional route. I kind of did things backwards. I worked for Showmakers of America at that time, for Susan Angel. And then I remember my first experience, I went to camp and everything, and I had to work. I was not up to par.
Oh, so you had to get caught up a little bit.
I got so many critiques and so many, I got yelled at quite a bit.
Wow.
But, I think it forced me to kind of fight or flight. And, I remember Labor Day weekend, I wanted to quit. I was like, I don't know if maybe this is not
right.
what God did for me. I don't know.
I'm having second thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah.
But instead I decided to work harder, and I would get her keys. I worked 40 hours a week at the Buckle in the mall.
Yeah.
I was a full-time student, and I was on the dance team.
Wow.
And I would work, go to school in the morning, practice in the afternoon, go to work after practice, and work until close. And then I would leave practice, and I would have her key to the studio. She would give me her keys to the studio before I left school each day. And I would go and I would work from 10 to midnight, Monday through Thursday.
Oh my gosh.
And just on me, on making sure I was not the one that was going to get the corrections anymore. I did it until I couldn't do it the incorrect way, right. And so, from there, I danced there for 2 years. I actually tried out for SFA after my second year. I did not make it here at SFA. And I became the assistant coach at McLennan. Then, at the end of that year, the coach here at SFA, was resigning. And so I applied thinking, you know what, I can at least finish school and stay 2 years and go back.
Right.
And, I got the job.
Wow.
I went from not making the team
to running the team
to becoming the next coach. And, I think there was a lot of factors. Me being a male was one of them.
Yeah.
I know that there was, the boss, the man that hired me, Michael Preston, hired me. I know that there was issues and talks at the time whenever he wanted to hire me about, like, okay, do we think it's okay for there to be a male pom-pom coach? Like that the Pom Squad was what they were named at that time. And
yeah.
And he said, you know what? He's got the qualifications. I think we're okay.
Yeah.
And so, my job here at SFA was, I got paid little or nothing still. I was still having to sell, do routines and work, on the side. I finally wasn't working on the side here. I was finally just doing choreography and going to school, and that was it, and coaching.
Yeah.
But something that was supposed to be, stay 2 more years, finish my degree, leave again, go, figure out where I was going to go. I'm now on year 16.
Wow.
And so where does it go from there? It's.
Well, your degree, don't you have 2 degrees, like one in kinesiology and then another one in art?
Yeah, so I have a degree in kinesiology, in Bachelor of Science in kinesiology, and then I have a minor in art history.
Okay,
yeah.
So obviously, whenever I read that, I was like, those are the perfect degrees for choreographer, really?
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
Was that on purpose?
Well, here's what happened. When I got here, I was a dance major. Right. I was a dance major. I thought, I'm going to be a dance director. I'm going to be a dance major. All I know is dance team, though.
Right.
I wasn't exposed to, I took some ballet classes here and there, but I wasn't exposed to modern, and I didn't have the appreciation.
Right.
So shame on me for not having that appreciation. But I remember I went to my first dance team class or dance class, and the number one, the dance department was not very accepting of the dance team
Oh,
at
yeah.
that point in time. So, I mean, there were people that majored in it and, all that, but they didn't have an appreciation for us. They saw, yes, they're getting more students, but like knowing that I was the pom coach was not an easy, easy issue at that point. So I
Yeah.
remember being told like to be a tree at one point, and I just was like, yeah, I'm not a tree.
I'm not a
more
tree.
of a firecracker. And so I got up and I left the class at that day, and I went in and changed my major. And I said, yeah, maybe this isn't the right route.
You walked into the registrar and said, I am no longer a tree.
Yeah, I'm more of a firecracker,
Right.
and I remember saying that, and like, so, now I look at it and to some degree, I have some regrets that I don't have a degree in dance, but at the same time, there's so many chapters to my story that I don't know if having a degree would have made me any
right
better.
Yeah.
And so the way that art came along, I changed it to kinesiology, and then I was going to do health science.
Oh.
And then kinesiology, and I was going to do nutrition. And then finally, I had to have a minor, and I walked into my advisor's office one day and I said, I don't like health science. I don't like nutrition. Like I'm not, there's not an interest there.
Right.
I have to have something. So I said, what are my options? So we took out my transcript and I had all these art credits, and that was the quickest way for me to get done.
Okay.
And so that's how it came about. And, the kinesiology people were like, because my advisor was in kinesiology at that time, and he was like, you were like one end of the spectrum to the other.
I know. Yeah.
Like it does not correlate. And I said, but it does for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
It does for me. And so yes, whenever I am creating, I look for an aesthetic principle. I look for different patterns. I think art has encouraged me to not be so confined to a box.
Yeah.
We're not trying to build a dance. We're trying to create. And so it's given me an outlook with color and with costume design and uniforms. Pom is my strength. Believe it or not, pom was my weakness whenever I first started college dance.
Really?
I got more corrections with my pom motions and hyperextension than you would ever believe. And now I have more championships in pom than anything else.
Do you think it's because you had to work so hard at it?
I think so.
And so, I
believe in the philosophy that we turn our weaknesses into our strengths.
Yeah.
And so you spend so much time on that weakness that it just kind of becomes the glue. It becomes your strength. And so, but yeah, kinesiology and art. Probably the only person in the history of this school to have those two combinations. But like I said, it worked for me, and so there we have it.
And then didn't you started a program too didn't you, about like
the dance team coaching minor?
Yes. Yes. That is so cool. So it's like you're creating the thing that you were looking for, right?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And, since then we have a new dance department, and they are very accepting of us, of the dance team. A lot of my dancers are in the dance department. Some are not, but a lot of them are. They realized that I was attracting this technical dancer to the university now, and I was able to give them scholarship.
Yeah.
Where there wasn't any scholarships in the dance department, very few, if any. And so we kind of made we married the two together, how can they enroll, get their enrollment up? How can we get enrollment up for the school? What can we do? And so then this idea of, what if we had this minor and it's dance team coaching, no one has it. So there was nothing for me to a copy, so to speak.
Right.
It was all kind of starting from scratch. And we started about 4 years ago with the very first, like, putting it together and developing the curriculum and going through the process. And now I have almost 20 declared, students in the minor.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so we're looking at getting it online and getting, creating a certificate for it. Like,
cool.
We're looking at all these things because no one else offers it. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to say, I helped to create this.
Well, what I think is cool too is this is coming from you working with the dance department, whereas back in the day when they were trying to teach you how to be a tree, there was not a lot of working together between those two entities at your school.
No.
Yeah. So that's cool. And this is a really cool story too, because I think there's a lot of people that are like, oh my God, it must be so cool to be TJ and he wins this and he wins that and he gets to work with these people and oh, it's so cool and so glamorous. They need to rewind. Yeah. And because your story is like littered with retail jobs, food service jobs, just a work ethic and a humility and a willingness to just be dedicated and just do it. Just got to get it done. No matter how. I
mean, I say all the time, turn the no's into ons, turn that no, flip it around and turn it into an on.
I get it now. I'm trying to spell in my head. And got it.
I think that's my new favorite thing that I've been saying is because everyone is told no and then they just stop chasing. And I'm like, the thrill is to chase.
Yes.
You're never, we should always be growing and always be willing to go above and beyond. Those people that continually find a way, they're going to be the most successful, and I preach that to my students. I'm like, you can't just, what got you here is not going to get you there. You got to do more. You got to constantly find ways to do more and to better yourself. And, I think it's important that this generation is understanding that, there's a disengagement somewhere with wanting everything to be so immediate.
Yes.
Immediate gratification.
Yes.
Yeah. And the world doesn't work that way.
No.
Or it shouldn't. Even if it's starting to. I don't believe it should. I believe that working hard for what we want should take precedent to winning.
Yeah, that's the way to that's the way to do it, as opposed to just having things handed to you. And I wonder if you had been on that dance team, I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying this about every team, but sometimes when there's just one male member of a dance team, it's different, and not that they're handed everything, but I think your story would have been different. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
And I look back and people are like, I'm so sorry that, I was so hard on, and I'm like, oh, I'm not. No, right. I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets. My story is you can read my story the way that it was supposed to be written. And I don't have any regrets whenever it comes to, all the choices and the, mistakes. Oh my gosh, the mistakes that have been made. Outweigh the great things, but it's when you can take that mistake and turn it into a growing experience, then,
right. Yeah.
I just think we're all better for it.
That's so cool. So you have experience working at all levels. You started with the little peewees, right? Mm-hmm. And then you've worked with high school, and you still work with a lot of high school level. I work, and then also college. So real quickly, will you tell us?
And then also Worlds.
Yes.
Team England. I've worked with Team England.
Oh wow.
As well. So I don't know what level you would call that. But
The international level. I
yeah,
don't know.
the international. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Each age level is different. And
Mhm.
the reason I ask this question is because even if you're the coach of a high school team, you're still going to have opportunities where you can bring in the little ones, like maybe for a clinic or a fundraiser. If you're a college team, you're looking in high schools to recruit. So you kind of need to know about every single age group. Is there something you can say about every age group that we need to know, like maybe the major differences or what you need to try to teach at each level?
I believe that challenges help to change people. They help to make them grow. I never go into a routine if I'm working with a different level. And there's only a few. I only work now. I only work with junior teams and above mainly. There's not very many middle school teams or JV teams I work with, just because a lot of times I'm a little bit too intense for them.
Yeah.
But I think I never try to go in and dumb down something. I don't talk down to them. I talk to them all like as if they were, the older dancers. I try to challenge them in that frame of mind, and that the way I teach, I don't teach it any slower than I would.
Right.
I might have to go over it a few more times, but I try to get them to that next level a little bit quicker. Maybe that just works. It's worked for me, and it's worked with the programs that I've chosen to kind of work with. But my favorite level, is high school. I have to say,
really.
Yeah, I mean, and I work with some pretty amazing college teams, and they're great, and I love them. I love the college teams I work with, but being able, high school is where that's where a lot of the change gets to happen. That's when I get to preach a little bit more about the world, because they're a little bit more up to listening. Of course the college kids do too, but they're in that area where if they're not too young to care, but they're not, their ears kind of open, and when you're trying to, to motivate them. And, to me, everything should be a motivation. It shouldn't just be I'm walking in and I'm teaching. I try to motivate while I teach.
Okay.
And try to preach while I teach,
and make it about life as opposed to 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
It's more than just counting a dance. And if they don't get something more than a dance whenever I go in there, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job to my fullest capability.
Well, I loved that too, how you kind of treat all age levels the same, and they will rise up to that.
They learn to adapt.
Yeah, that's great advice.
I think that's the great thing about human.
Yeah.
The human mind is we learn to adapt. And so if you put them in that situation, they're going to grow and they're going to become better. And I firmly believe that. I believe that everyone, not everyone is treated equal, but everyone is treated fairly, in that sense of, they're going to work harder. They're going to want it, and when you see those teams that when you left them, you were going, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. But then by the time you get to the end of competition season, you watch that video and you go, it's just beauty.
Yeah.
It's art coming to life,
So speaking of transformations, it's not like you inherited like national title winning teams whenever you first started coaching where you are now. Okay. So I want to hear about that too. You have really transformed these, your teams and built them into a powerhouse at a school that, it's like I said, it's not like you inherited this. Where did you start? Because you hear that a lot of times on forums, hey, I just took over a team. Like, where do I start? What?
Well, let me just, I do have to say that SFA in the 90s were it. They won. I did take over a winning team. They just hadn't won since 1998.
Okay.
So, SFA won in 93, 94, 95, 96, and 98. Won national titles for NDA.
Wow.
And in NDA, that they didn't become NDA until 2000. So, so for NCA dance or whatever, DANZ, they had won. So SFA had a rich history of winning.
I did not know that. I thought you did this. You should have just said. You should have just let me believe that.
No, and a lot of people do think that because maybe if for this day and age, I kind of put them on the map.
Yeah, yes.
Back on the map,
yes.
so to speak. But no, I came into a program that no one had won that had been on the program, and like I said, they hadn't won since 98. So I took over fall of 05. So there's a whole, and I didn't win until my fourth year.
Yeah, but that's a long, that's a big group of years that they were not. So, well, where did you start? Did you just, show them the national banners from 98, 93, 90?
No, I started recruiting technical skills.
Oh, yeah.
I turned the approach. SFA was a strong pom and hip hop, but funky pom and funky, that was their group back then. And there wasn't a hip hop division. For NDA, for the longest time, there was just team performance. And so I started recruiting talent dancers that had technical skills, technique. Yeah. It was more than just, can you be sharp and strong and thrust? It was, can you turn? Uh-huh. Can you jump? Can you leap? And so if you can do those things, then I'm going to get you where I need to have you on the dance side.
Right.
I was more worried. I spent more time recruiting talented dancers technically, because I feel like as technique, and especially at that point in time, if you had to have a technical foundation. Yeah. It was easier for me to train a non-dancer that was technical to do our style of dance than it was for me to teach them how to do turns in second.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And multiple rotations. I mean, to get a good solid triple, multiple times in a practice back then was a reward.
Right.
It just wasn't. We were still in this era of almost cheerleaders could make the team.
Got it.
Because they were athletic and they were dancerish, but they didn't have, like turns in second. I mean, it was a while before we did turns in second that wasn't just an easy
combo. It was
straight combo.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what I did. I spent more time recruiting. And that first few years, man, I recruited my tail end off. Every chance I got.
And what did you do? Did you go out to like high schools? Did you, how did you do that?
I would go to high schools. I would go to recruiting events.
Yeah.
Our name, our brand, I started branding us differently from pretty much the get-go.
Okay, yeah, talk about that too, because I think even at the high school level, maybe even the middle school
I got our name out there.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people knew who we were.
Right. How'd you do that? Social media or just showing up?
Well, we would go and perform at competitions.
Okay.
We would go and I would set up a table there at the competition, and we would have our, your little
booth
board and information, a little booth going on. And every collegiate audition I could find, I made sure we were there. We started having recruit clinics, pre-tryout workshops and recruit workshops, and so that we could, build up.
Yeah.
I remember my first tryout. I got hired on the Monday before tryout started on Wednesday.
Wow.
So I walked into this has already been recruited for. And I remember walking in and we're supposed to pick 15 people. And I had probably 80 something trying out.
Wow.
But I tell you what, probably about 50 had no business being there.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
And so it was easy. Like, yeah, the quantity was there, but the quality was not necessarily anything I would shake a stick at.
Right.
And, at that point in time, 15 was the number. In my first year, I remember going up to my boss during tryouts and going, I need 18. I want 18. And he said, you have 15 scholarships. I said, well, I want 18. He said, you have 15 scholarships. I said, well, what if two people decide to split a scholarship?
Yeah.
3 people decide to split. He said, do what you want.
Okay. So you did some math.
And so I've been very, from the get-go, I can't just deal with 15 was not a wide range. They would end up competing with 12.
Yes.
Because you'd have 3 people that were either didn't make grades or kicked off or
yes, always something
or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we're never going to win. We're never going to get back to where we could be if we don't start changing some things.
Okay.
And so, I tiptoed lightly a little bit, as much as I know how to tiptoe, but I mean, I remember coming in and saying, all right, that first team saying, all right, we're having practice at the end of May. We're going to have a weekend practice. We're going to have a weekend practice in June. We're going to go meet before camp in July. We're going to go to camp. And then we're going to come back a week before the school starts and have a work week.
Wow.
And they thought I was crazy.
I bet.
They thought I was crazy. They said that they, one of them said, after it was all said and done, and we were fixing to start school, my thing back then was any questions, comments, or concerns before we clap up. And one of them, this is the week before school starts on Monday, and we're going to start going regular practices then. We had our work week, and someone raised their hand and she said, are we going to work this hard all the time? Or are we going to sweat like this all the time? Because we normally don't sweat till national season.
Right. Were you like, you need to turn in your uniform?
Well, I was very quick on the fly. And I said, well, her name was Aubrey. I said, well, Aubrey, and Aubrey bought into my process, and she became a captain the next year. So Aubrey, still to this day, we have a great relationship. And I looked at her and I said, well, you better pretend like it's nationals every day then.
Wow.
And because, we're going to do this every day.
Have you found, is it hard? Because obviously you care and you're the hardest worker in the room. And that's the case for usually, coaching everywhere. It's the adult that cares the most. How do you get everybody to buy in? Is it a team culture thing? Do you, or is it just from the get-go, you only take the most dedicated ones? How do you do this?
No, I think nowadays it's team culture. They know coming in. I learned something from Carrie Smith a long time ago at in a class of hers, and it was her recipe for success.
Oh,
and I adapted it to my own recipe for success. But we go through everything. If you want to be successful here, you have to buy into what we're doing, and you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, then this is not going to be the place for you. And that's okay. That I used to get really upset and get, my feelings hurt when people would quit or people would not come here or whatever. And now I'm like, you know what? It's okay.
Right.
You're going to have to adapt to our culture because our culture is not going to change. We're going to do, we've obviously have figured out what works for us. And everyone sees the glamour and the glitz and the rings and the titles from outside, but they don't know what it takes to get there on the inside. And, I just think that I've been blessed with having here, and it didn't happen all at once. it happened. I would say probably within the last 5 or 6 years, it's been very consistent with the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was hit or miss. It took some time. I mean, it was, oh gosh, I didn't have a 4-year member on my team until she graduated. She came on in 2009 and graduated in 12.
Wow.
So 8, 9, and then graduated in 2012. That was the first time I had a 4-year member.
Wow. Was it Aubrey?
No. Aubrey she was a junior whenever I took over. Okay. And then did her junior and then senior year. So it was not Aubrey. But yeah, it took a long time, and then after that, I think, you make mistakes. We won in 2009, and then and 2010 was kind of okay. In 2011, I had the most talented team I thought I had ever had in my life, and I didn't correct them. I didn't critique them.
Oh.
I let them get by with a lot of things, weighing so heavily on their talent, and it bit me in the rear.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, because you do win a lot, and is that sort of what you learned, is just to kind of be really dedicated to the culture? This is what we do. We work hard, and then just sort of that helps with the placement, because you'd mentioned that when you kind of let things slide because the team was so talented, mm-hmm. So is that the element? Is hard work and the dedication? Is that the element that kind of translates into?
I think the element is, I'm a very transparent person, and I sometimes tell them more than they need to know, but I break down everything for them whenever it's time.
Uh-huh.
So in order for them to understand what we're doing, we break down the score sheet and we talk about the scores. I let them know, like, right away, if the way that we do things are done because X, Y, and Z. So we break down everything. I try to not only just be a dictator, I don't want to just come in and say, this is the way it is, and This is what you have to do. I want them to know why. And I even tell them, like, I have an open door policy. And if you have a problem with something, then we can talk about it. It does not mean that the answer is going to be changed, but there's a time and a place to talk about it. And if you're still in practice, when you leave practice, if you're still worried about it, then you need to come and talk to me.
Yeah.
In practice is not the place to get anything done with me. I have tunnel vision, I have a schedule, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
But if you come and talk to me, and I'll explain it maybe a little bit more than I do to the whole team, or, you might have a better suggestion, but if I've done something and it hasn't worked, typically I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that culture is everything. Culture and character.
Yes.
Or everything to do with success.
So when you go into a team and choreograph, do you go over the score sheet with them too? Or is that just more the coach's job? Are you sort of, here it is, here's the material?
Well, I think depending on the team.
Got it.
Some teams I can. Texas Tech, for instance, I do their palm choreography, and I treat them like I would my team.
Right.
I walk in and, me and Aaron are totally on the same page. And then, so we try to make sure they're on the same page as well, and have a parts of the process, where they might go, well, it's easier to do this. I might go, well, but we're not going to get the point.
Right.
We do that, and
Yeah.
so they're like, okay, get it, got it, I have a good relationship with Tech, a great relationship with Rincocas Valley, with April Wagner.
Yes.
I've been doing her choreography for, she's my longest. It's the school I've worked with the longest period of time.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, April and I go way back.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And then I have all these other teams. I try to educate as I go.
Got it.
I don't ever try to just walk in and give them a dance and then leave. I try to make them understand that they have every potential to do well, but you can't just have the potential. You have to turn that potential into something.
Right. And the way you do that is through dedication, hard work, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the list. I mean, the perseverance.
Yes.
And patience.
Yes.
Passion. And I mean, the
all
list can go on and on and on of all the inspirational words that come along with it.
Right.
It's really just, their character and their culture.
So speaking of
make or break.
Yeah. Speaking of inspiration, you're an exceptional choreographer. I love your material. Where do you get your inspiration?
Gosh. I really, the honest truth is I don't know.
I love it.
I'm a choreographer that I will plan very little before I go in to do a job. It works for me. I like the pressure of having to create within a time limit and a certain amount of days or, hours. And I have a journal. I keep a journal of all my work. I might scale the music and have, hey, this section I'm going to have this or, whatever. Right. But I don't look for inspiration. It's around us always.
Right.
But I don't go out and seek it.
Got it. And
I'm very big on the organic process of creating. I think it should be organic and it shouldn't be forceful. And sometimes you just got to know the team.
Yeah.
That's why I very seldom will I take on a new client. I tend to work with teams, and they get better each time, and we get to know each other, and they get to know the way I work, and that just has worked, for me.
So you kind of come in with an idea
everywhere.
And with your journal, and do you have sort of like a kind of a direction maybe for each section, but then you just let it happen and you create it with the team. Is that correct? Oh, that's cool.
A director will say, well, what's their first formation? I'll have them in that for you. And I'll go, well, I don't know, but here's the formation. Put your best dancers in these spots, and I need these spots to be able to do this, and then I'll work backwards from there.
Oh, wow.
Or, I just I see patterns. Palm is like I said, palm is what I do the most of. My strength, I do a team performance, a few jazzes, and mostly palms. But I'm a pattern person. I like transitions to be seamless.
Yes.
And, I want stuff to happen magically without setting up for it to happen, so to speak.
That's very interesting to hear you say that, because your routines are, I feel like they're visually very appealing, and I feel like things just kind of develop and come out of nowhere. So that is obviously very intentional.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always, the end goal is always to have that. It doesn't always happen right away. A lot of times I'll do a second visit, or we'll do some, videoing and, let's change this, let's do this. Not always. I don't know if there's ever been a time when I created a product and it ended up being the same way of whenever I created it.
Oh, really? Well, I think sometimes it's a mistake to come with everything all mapped out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you get there. Have you ever, though, had like a choreography session where it's at the end of the first day and you're like, okay, this is not what I had planned at all. And maybe sometimes it's better, but then maybe sometimes it's not. Have you ever had like a panic where it's like, oh God?
I've never, knock on wood, because I'm about to start doing, a lot of work here shortly with, finally being able to go and do stuff again. But I've never walked out not feeling good about it.
Good.
I always, if that means that I have to take a minute and regroup, go grab me a Starbucks or,
right.
Whatever, and just kind of like, all right, walk away and then come back to it, then I'll always err in that side. I kind of pace myself because sometimes I'll get on a roll and it just spills out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then other times I'm like, okay, I need to back off. I need to back off a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish this routine in one day, and I need to spend 2 days with it,
Got it.
So I always try to plan for being there longer. And if I don't need it, then that's great. But I really just, I let it all happen. I've never walked out of a routine not feeling good about it.
Right.
And I've never walked out of a routine without it being completed. So I think if I can keep that up, I think we'll figure it out along the way. And knock on wood, I really, when I started doing choreography again after the COVID thing, after not doing anything for 6 months, I added more time with my clients. I said, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to have more time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I might get there and totally flop.
Right.
Because
who knows?
I've been on a roll.
Right. Yeah.
I took off. We all had to take off. The world kind of went on pause, and but luckily, I think it just inspired me more.
Oh,
it
good.
Just made me kind of have a refresher, like a breather, so to speak.
Do you find too that the way that you do it, where it's there with the team, do you find then that the dancers themselves, it's more of like a collaboration? Are they, more of a, you know what I mean? And as opposed to all the pressure on you.
And I tell them that from the get-go. And there are some jobs that I have to turn away because directors or coaches do not want that. They, and I'm upfront with them always. I'm like, I create on the spot, meaning I'm not going to come in and just be able to create this routine or do this routine in 4 hours.
Yeah.
I need 8 hours minimum. And that's for like a Texas school that I'm not doing all the layering for because not all the schools like that.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing a nationals or a state routine, I want 2 days minimum. I want to be able to take my time and I tell the students that as well. I'm like, I'm creating this on you. So the more that you do, the better it's going to be. Like we're going to create this together, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have an input, and so at first some of them are like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But then once they start seeing things, they're like, oh, I get it now, and so, I mean, it's basically just, it's different for every school, but if a team has worked with me for multiple years, they know my method.
Right.
And so they're ready for that.
Have you
that
always...
first year, that time is always a questionable, like, I don't know if they're going to get it or not.
Right. Have you always been like that? Because if you started out as like everything's written down and this is all done and I just need to set it on these people.
For sure.
Yeah.
So whenever I first started, everything was mapped out. It was scaled out. The formations were done.
Yeah.
I had everything just perfect. I could walk in, teach. I was good to go. What happened was whenever I was the assistant at McLennan, I was doing a lot of extra work on the side. And there was a studio about 30 minutes away with a competition team that I was set to do choreography for on a Sunday. I forgot. I forgot that I had this. And that was back in the day of Napster, and we would rip music and cutting music was still kind of new.
Yeah.
I started cutting music on a CD, cassette tape. The calls and
right. Yes.
That's how I started everything. This was early 2000s, so it was the cutting of music was newish on the computer, and we didn't buy anything. We got it off of
right.
the internet.
Right.
And so I woke up one Sunday morning and I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to teach this afternoon." Like I had to be there at 1. It was like 9 o'clock or whatever. So I was like, "Oh no," and so I got up and I cut the music and I burned it on a CD, and I listened to it the whole way there, for 30 minutes. Just on repeat. I listened to it over and over, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just inspire,
Right.
And so I walked and I started working and, did it and had this routine. And it wasn't, it wasn't I needed to be there for 2 days. It was just a little competition routine. And, I didn't know how to layer the way that I layer now either. That was all something that came upon, later on in time. But, I completed the routine. She loved it. She was all about it. So she said, can you come back next weekend and do my other team, do their routine? And I said,
Sure.
So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try not, I'm not going to make it up. I'm just going to cut the music and talk, but I'm going to try to. So I went in the next week and I did it again, and she loved the routine.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
I was like, okay, all right. So then she asked me to work with her cheer team to do a home routine, like a cheer dance for them for camp. And so finally I looked at her and said, I just have to tell you, I'm not walking in with anything choreographed. I'm making this up on the spot. And she said, well, whatever you're doing is working for me. So can you come back? And I said, sure thing. So I tried it again. And so that was the end of walking in with stuff done. I did it out. There have been a few cases where I've, done choreography ahead of time and sent or whatever. I was the choreographer for the Texas Dance Educators Association for their all-state team one year, and I had to create that before I went. So there's been a few cases here and there, but for the most part, I'm a fly by the seat of my pants kind of choreographer.
I love that story. I love how that originated. I think.
Yeah, it was organic.
Yes,
my whole story is very organic in nature. Nothing was planned. Nothing has ever been planned. And which is so crazy because I'm a planner and I'm a type A.
Oh God. So, okay. How do you
always think it should?
How do you go about cleaning routines?
Count by count.
Okay.
Hand count by hand count.
Yeah.
Small parts. The way that I clean, it takes time. It's more than just going over something. And we do what I have a process, and the first thing we do is called clarification. We're clarifying it. And then a lot of times I will give the student, and I do this with my team mainly, because I don't go and clean a lot of teams. But I clarify first. Mm-hmm. So we clarify, we go through pathways, that's the main thing. And then I give them time, because I know that sometimes not the best dancers or the best products come from it happening immediately. Mm-hmm. But every day we will run stuff. So once we clarify, and now I'm talking about for competition. For regular dances, we clean, but it's a lot more, you have to know your audience and know where your venue is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it relies more on the students than relies on me cleaning them, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not that I don't clean our game day routines, but it's not the process. We start with the process of clarifying with the game day routines, and we have tryouts. And so they figure out how to make sure they're doing the right things for game day. But then for national, we clarify, then we marinate, meaning that we're giving it some time.
Yes.
I don't like to clean the style out of things.
Yes.
And that's one thing I was very guilty of in the beginning.
Yeah.
Was cleaning it so particularly that there's no style left in it.
Yeah.
And So that has been my challenge, is making sure that I also used to not believe in peaking. And now I believe that we can peak too soon.
Yes. Agreed.
And so I always thought, well, if we train like we're going to be perfect, we could do it over and over. Well, I don't believe that anymore.
Right.
But so we clarify and we marinate, and then I give them time, and we run it. We run those routines every day. We run them multiple times.
Oh,
Even if there are mistakes, I believe it's very important for them to run the routine, film it so they can see it, and they can auto correct a lot of things.
yes.
But so that we're building their endurance as we go.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, but I literally, and then come about 3 weeks before competition, before nationals, which is normally about spring break for us, then I get my hands on them.
Got it.
And if it's not working, it's out. If it's not reading the way I need it to read, it changes. I'm not afraid to change something. I don't care if I paid the most for it.
Right.
From a choreographer, we're going to change it. We're going to adapt it to what we need to do.
But I love how you give it a chance though. But then there's a cutoff point. And I remember you saying that in Vegas at the you gave a talk at the conference where you kind of pick a point of no return, where if you don't have it by then, that's when we're going to make some adjustments. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You have to have a deadline, because if not, you're going to be going. I don't want them walking out on stage at prelims or finals, and I'm crossing every toe and phalange and everything on my body, make sure that that we're going to hit that routine. I want it to be, hittable. We spent a lot of time in the environment too. When we were outside, we took our Marley floor outside.
Yes.
Facing the sun. That's because that's how finals were.
Right.
That's how I clean. But I give it time, and I give it time to settle and to be, like I said, organic.
Yes.
I believe that organic can work with all styles. It's not just a contemporary modern,
right,
definition. I think organic just means that it's coming together naturally.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, you can be a tree in palm.
Yeah, and I have learned how to.
Yes. Okay, advice time. TJ, what would you tell a coach that's just starting out? She's fresh, she's 21, 22, whatever, right out of college. She has her first team, or he. What do you tell her or him? Heavy sigh.
And it's funny because I teach this in my in my course, but I challenge them to think outside the box and not to put a perimeter around their expectations, and to give themselves time to grow where they're planted.
Yeah.
I think it takes a new coach 4 to 5 years to get really acclimated and to start seeing a change and a difference in the culture.
Yes.
This isn't something that there's not a magic pill that you can take to make it happen. If you want to see change, you're going to have challenges, so be patient and keep good notes and keep a good, journal of what you want to change. And
yes,
it's work.
Yeah.
We ask our students to be loyal to us and to work hard. Well, guess what? We have to be the most loyal, and we have to be the most hardest workers as the coaches.
Yeah.
Even if it's behind the scenes, I can't tell you that there's ever a day that goes by that I'm not thinking about something for this program.
Right.
Point.
What would you tell a coach that's in a rut? He or she has done it for a while, and it's almost like they had to be talked back into taking that job again. Just over it.
I would say, and I found myself in this, take some time off,
Okay.
Take a week, take a weekend and unplug, I think it can become overwhelming, with life in general. But just take some time for you, find something that makes you tick, even though this is what makes us tick, because I think it takes something special to be a coach.
Oh gosh. Yes.
But find something else that, for me, it was getting back into my waterfowl, and spending time doing that, and, pick up a paintbrush, pick up a paint by number, a knitting needle. I don't know. Like, find something that makes you grow in a different way, and just kind of walk away. Take a little break. It's okay to take a break.
Right.
It can become overwhelming.
Yeah.
And even with the crisis that we're in right now, with the uncertain times we are in right now, it is really overwhelming.
Yes.
So you just have to find something that makes you tick, and just kind of step away from it. And know when enough is enough, that you have to walk away and you don't burn out.
Yes. Yeah.
Fires don't always have to continue to burn. Sometimes it just takes a little wind to knock it out. Sometimes it takes a little drop of water. Sometimes you got to smother it. It doesn't have to always burn out. But
yeah. Oh, that's excellent
I
advice.
firmly think that we have to be willing to go that extra mile as a coach.
Yeah.
The most successful coaches, I've had coaches ask me all the time, well, how do you get your team to look that good? Well, we work.
Yeah.
How do you win? Well, you got to work for it. This delusion that it's just going to happen one day, when one day it's going to be your time. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You got to make it your time.
That is excellent advice. TJ Maple, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom and all of that. I do have one last question for you, though.
Okay.
Do your waterfowl, do they swim in formation? And if they don't, what do you do?
They don't. They're like walking formation in line. Mine are never in a row in the aviary, but no, that's funny. Yeah.
He's pretty amazing, isn't he?
Yeah, especially in the last 4 minutes, he had some really good quotes there that is definitely something to remember.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that there's a culture in place there. Mm-hmm. He's worked hard to create that, and I think he works just as hard to implement that too. So he's amazing. I'm a huge fan of his work. And we've got another sponsor to talk about.
What?
I know. It's crazy, Kayla. All right. I know you've heard of this company. It's called Glamour Gear. And anybody that has attended a dance studio competition has probably heard of this company too. And I am really pleased with this partnership because it's a local company. They are in the Kansas City, Missouri area.
I didn't know they were local.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
How do you think I got that big thing that we gave away at the
I just thought we were a big deal.
No, they did not ship that. I went down there to go get it. So Glamour Gear Luggage is the new popular brand of luggage that is USA patented. Help your little dancers to be able to roll the bag themselves and be able to change costumes in a private setting. Glamour Gear's mission is empowering dancers, performers, athletes, gymnasts, cheerleaders, and more. How do they do that, you ask?
Yeah.
Those expensive dance costumes deserve an awesome bag, right? Introducing Glamour Gear. Glamour Gear Luggage is the new popular brand of luggage that is easy maneuvering with 4 wheels. I tested it out myself.
4 wheels?
4, yes. Wow. And a sturdy garment rack in place that includes the U-Hide system that you use with the optional privacy curtain. All right, I'm I'm going to take a pause here from reading their little script they gave me to kind of explain how this works. So Glamour Gear was so generous to donate this huge thing that they're talking about here in this copy to our contest, the Kansas City Classic, and we gave it away in our coach drawing. And I felt like a magician's assistant, like wheeling out this big prop, and like Kayla could fit into it. Maybe I could fit into it too. Like,
she made a big deal out of it. And, we're just like, can you just not?
Well, and I was not the only one that made a big deal out of it. My little colleague, Maggie Willis, her daughters compete. And when she saw it, she was like, is that from Glamour Gear? And I was like, yeah. And I was so tempted to just give it to her because she knew exactly what it was. But we're not like that. Like they donated it for the, and we're not going to
give away.
To give away, yes. And so what it does is it fits, like if you're competing and you have many, many costumes, it can fit a lot. But, any suitcase can fit a lot. But what's cool about it is it's got this like inner working system that opens up and your costumes are all hanging neatly so nothing gets ruined. And it has privacy curtains.
Any of my late 20s, early 30s people out there that grew up competing, that all of us grew up with our boobs hanging out everywhere.
Everybody saw you.
Yeah,
while
so
you're
this would have been really nice.
Yeah, this would have been great. So plenty of privacy when using a bag with the curtain yourself, but there's also room for 2 or 3 friends using it as well. With Glamour Gear, you can create your own dressing room. So thank you so much for that partnership as well. You'll be hearing a little bit more about Glamour Gear, and you can get information about them and iSlide on our website, larkspurdance.com, under affiliates.
Yep.
And that's Harvey.
It's my dog in the background. You can hear it.
He's saying hello as well. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will chat with you next week.
Bye.